Matter doesn't respond to force. It responds to resonance. Listen closely, Tilda, because this sentence sounds simple, but it quietly shatters the way you've been taught to see reality. You've spent your whole life believing that matter moves when you push it, that life changes when you try harder, that results come from effort, pressure, and force. But think about this for a moment. There are days when you grind, you hustle, you force everything into place, and nothing moves. And then there are the strange days, the quiet ones, the moments when you're not even trying. And somehow everything lines up for you. A person calls at the exact right time. A door opens without you knocking. Something you wanted simply falls into your hands. And you tell yourself it's luck, coincidence, a weird, convenient accident. But deep down, you know it isn't. Because the universe doesn't reward force. It responds to frequency, to coherence, to the invisible rhythm you're carrying inside you. So here's the real question, the question most people never dare to ask. What if your consciousness can create a bridge, a subtle energetic passageway where your inner state begins to influence physical matter? Before anything actually happens in the physical world? What if reality is not reacting to what you do, but to the vibration you hold? And if that's true, then the real power isn't outside you. It's in the resonance you broadcast every single second. Welcome to the resonance bridge. There is a place, a thin line, where consciousness begins to touch matter. You felt it before, even if you didn't have a name for it. That subtle moment when an idea in your mind starts to pull the world around you in its direction. When a thought becomes more than a thought. When something inside you begins shaping things outside you. This is where the resonance bridge quietly appears. Not as a physical structure, not as a mystical portal, but as a vibrational intersection, a delicate zone where your inner frequency meets the probabilities of the physical world. Picture it like this. You're standing right between two realities, the one you're experiencing and the one that's trying to form around the vibration you're broadcasting. That middle space, that fragile gap between the invisible and the visible, is what I call the interference zone. It's the place where your emotions start influencing outcomes, where your identity begins bending circumstances, where your inner coherence starts rearranging the possibilities around you before any of it solidifies into matter. You've stepped into that zone many times without noticing, when you just knew something was going to happen. When you felt reality shift in your favor for no logical reason. When the world seemed to move with you instead of against you. Those were not coincidences. They were signatures of the bridge. And here's the part that pulls you deeper. Most people touch the resonance bridge only by accident, in rare moments when they're aligned without trying. But what would happen if you understood this mechanism? If you could access that interference zone on purpose? If you could stabilize your inner frequency long enough for matter to respond predictably? Imagine what your life would look like then. Because the real mystery, the one we're about to explore next, is not what the resonance bridge is. It's how it actually operates, and trust me, once you see that, you'll never look at reality the same way again. To understand the resonance bridge, you need an image, something your mind can feel, not just understand. So let's start here. Imagine your consciousness as a string on a guitar, a single delicate string stretching from your thoughts, to your emotions, to the quiet identity you carry beneath everything else. When that string vibrates smoothly, with clarity, with intention, with consistency, it sends a tone into the world. Now imagine the physical world, all the people, events, objects, opportunities, as the surface of a still lake. Most people don't realize this, but water responds perfectly to vibration, not to pressure, not to force, to resonance. When your inner string vibrates with coherence, the surface of the world begins to ripple in harmony. It adjusts, it shifts, it subtly reshapes itself according to the tone you're holding. That invisible space between the vibrating string and the rippling water. That's the resonance bridge, the moment where vibration becomes influence, where inner frequency becomes outer movement, where consciousness begins to nudge matter. But let's deepen the imagery. Forget the guitar, forget the lake. Picture instead a shaft of light cutting through a room filled with mist. Your consciousness is the light, focused, intentional, carrying a specific frequency. Matter is the mist, shapeless until something interacts with it. When the light is scattered, foggy, unstable, it does nothing to the mist. But when the light becomes coherent, precise, steady, unwavering, the mist doesn't just glow, it forms shapes, contours, silhouettes, patterns that didn't exist until coherence gave them permission to appear. That moment, when the coherent beam pushes through the mist and gives it form, that is the resonance bridge. It's not a place you go to. It's not a portal you step through. It's a threshold that activates when your inner state becomes stable enough for the external world to start responding. Not instantly, not dramatically, but subtly. In the way conversations shift, paths open, chance meetings happen, and matter begins rearranging itself around the frequency you're anchoring. And here's the beautiful, almost haunting truth. You've been crossing this bridge your entire life, without knowing it. Small moments of clarity, bursts of inspiration, times when you felt aligned, even if only for a few seconds. Those were flashes of coherence, brief streaks of light carving through the mist. But what happens if instead of stumbling into those moments, you learn how to hold that light steady? That's when the resonance bridge becomes something more than a metaphor. It becomes a mechanism, a technology, a way of interacting with reality itself. Before you understand how the resonance bridge works, you need to unlearn something first. Because for most of your life, you've been taught a version of reality that simply isn't true. You were taught that matter is solid, fixed, independent, unmoved unless you push it, fight it, or force it to respond, and maybe that made sense at the time. It's what the world told you. It's what school told you. It's what your experiences seem to confirm. But look closer. Really look. Matter isn't solid. Matter is structured energy. Energy slowed down. Energy stabilized. Energy that takes form based on the conditions around it. And here's the mistake nearly everyone makes. They try to influence matter by pushing it. They try to use willpower, pressure, stress, hustle, intensity, but force only creates resistance. You push the world and the world pushes back, not because it's stubborn, but because that's how force works. Let me give you a simple truth that flips the entire paradigm. You don't change physical reality through pressure. You change it through coherence. There is an enormous difference between force and frequency. Force says, I need this to happen. I have to make it happen. It's tight, desperate, chaotic. Frequency says, this is who I am. This is the vibration I hold. It's calm, confident, unshakable. And here's the part nobody tells you. When your inner frequency is unstable, filled with doubt, fear, urgency, or contradiction, you could visualize for hours, affirm all day, hustle yourself into exhaustion, and reality will barely move. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your vibration is incoherent, and incoherence can't cross the resonance bridge. This is why so many people try to manifest but end up frustrated or burnt out. They try to change reality through craving, wishing, wanting, completely unaware that wanting is the vibration of not having, and the world simply mirrors that state back to them. It's not that the universe ignores them, it's that they're broadcasting a scrambled signal. But when your frequency becomes stable, consistent, clear, something astonishing happens. You stop wrestling with matter, and matter starts reorganizing around you. Not because you forced it, but because you finally became someone the physical world can respond to. This is the first crack in the old paradigm. And once it breaks open, everything about the nature of reality starts to reveal itself. To understand how consciousness influences matter, you have to understand how matter actually works. Not the version you learned in school, not the neat diagrams in a textbook, not the simplified, outdated model of little particles bouncing around like billiard balls. No, the real world, the quantum world, behaves nothing like that. And once you see what's truly happening underneath physical reality, the idea of the resonance bridge stops sounding mystical and starts sounding inevitable. Let's start with something simple but completely paradigm shifting. At the deepest level, matter isn't stuff, it's probability. Every object around you, the chair you're sitting on, the phone in your hand, your own body, is built from particles that don't actually exist in a fixed position until they are observed. Before they become physical, they live as wave functions, clouds of potential, not solid presence. Meaning, matter is not fundamentally physical, it's fundamentally possible, and possibility can be influenced, especially by consciousness. This is where things get interesting, because when you observe a particle, or more accurately, when your consciousness interacts with a quantum system, the wave function collapses. It chooses a state. It crystallizes. This is known as the observer effect. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. Your consciousness affects the probability field of the physical world. But there's another layer most people never hear about: coherence. In quantum physics, coherence is what happens when waves line up in harmony. Synchronized, consistent, stable. A coherent wave has power. It creates constructive interference. It amplifies. An incoherent wave, it cancels itself out. It loses impact. It disappears into noise. Now imagine your consciousness as a vibration within a quantum field. When your inner state is scattered, doubtful, conflicted, anxious, your vibration becomes incoherent. Your influence on the probability field becomes weak, unstable, inconsistent. But when your inner state becomes steady, emotionally aligned, clear, calm, anchored, your vibration becomes coherent, and coherent consciousness does something extraordinary. It shifts probability distribution. It subtly increases the likelihood that certain outcomes will appear, and decreases the likelihood of others. You're not magically manifesting. You're influencing the quantum field by holding a stable vibration long enough for probability to bend around it. This is where the resonance bridge appears. It is the interference zone between your coherent consciousness and the wave-based probability structure of reality. When both frequencies line up, your inner field and the outer quantum field, something synchronizes. A possibility becomes preferred. A pattern begins stabilizing. A direction of reality becomes more likely than all the others. And eventually, the wave collapses into form. Matter appears. Circumstances move. Reality shifts. Not because you forced anything, but because your coherence nudged the field into alignment. So when people say, I thought about it and then it happened, or I felt it coming, or everything suddenly lined up, they're not imagining it. They're describing the moment their inner frequency reached coherence and crossed the resonance bridge into the physical world. This is quantum mechanics, not wishful thinking. And if consciousness can influence probability, imagine what happens when that consciousness becomes stable enough to influence patterns, events, timelines. Because that's where we're heading next. Science explains the mechanics. Spirit explains the meaning. Up to this point, you've seen the quantum logic, how consciousness can influence probabilities, how coherence shapes outcomes. But long before physics had the language to describe it, the mystics already knew. They didn't use terms like wave functions or fields of potential. They spoke in poetry and metaphor, in the language of the soul. And strangely, their words line up with modern physics in a way that feels almost impossible to ignore. Neville Goddard said, "Your imagination is the creative power of the universe. Not your effort, not your will, your inner state." Rumi whispered, "What you seek is seeking you, because your vibration draws toward you the shapes that match its tone." Bashar taught, "Your frequency is your compass. Reality rearranges itself around your state of being." A perfect description of coherence affecting a probability field. And Paramahansa Yogananda wrote, "Matter is nothing but condensed energy, and energy is nothing but consciousness condensed." Different voices, different centuries, different cultures, but all pointing to the same truth. Matter is not separate from consciousness. Matter is consciousness slowed down. A denser form, a crystallized echo, a vibration that has become visible. In spiritual terms, the resonance bridge is not just a mechanism, it's a relationship between the invisible and the visible, between the vibration you hold and the world that mirrors it. And when your inner state becomes coherent, calm but powerful, soft but unwavering, you don't just influence matter. You harmonize with it. You and the physical world start moving as one system, one rhythm, one field. This is why the mystics always said the world responds to the heart, not the force of the mind. Because the heart, your emotional frequency, your identity vibration, is the true engine of coherence. And when the heart stabilizes, matter begins to listen. This is the spiritual dimension of the resonance bridge, not control, not manipulation, but alignment. A quiet, steady state that allows reality to meet you where you are. And now that you understand both sides, the science and the spirit, there's a deeper question waiting. What happens when this bridge stays active long enough for reality to begin reshaping itself around you? That's exactly where we go next. If consciousness can influence matter, what happens when it does so consistently? Up until now, everything you've learned points to one truth. Your inner state can touch the physical world, not metaphorically, not symbolically, but literally. But here's the part no one talks about, the part that pulls you deeper into the mystery. Most people only activate the resonance bridge in flashes, moments of clarity, moments of emotional alignment, moments when their vibration briefly stabilizes and then slips away just as fast. A spark, a glimpse, a short-lived ripple in the field. But what happens when the spark becomes steady, when the frequency doesn't flicker, when your inner state stays coherent for hours, days, weeks? That's when something extraordinary begins to unfold. The probability field around you, the invisible structure of your reality, starts to lock. Opportunities that once felt random start showing up with unnerving precision. People appear at the exact moment you think of them. Obstacles dissolve before you reach them. Events collide in perfect synchronicity as if the world is adjusting itself to match your internal pattern. It feels subtle at first, like the universe is leaning toward you, listening, responding, finishing your sentences. Then it becomes stronger, more deliberate. Almost deliberate enough to scare you. This is the stage mystics called form shaping. The moment when reality begins crystallizing around the vibration you hold most frequently. And it raises a question that every spiritual tradition has danced around but never fully explained. If your consciousness can nudge matter, can it sculpt it, stabilize it, influence the timeline itself? Because the truth is this: you are much closer to shaping your reality than you've ever been told. And in the next part, you'll understand why. The resonance bridge doesn't activate when you want something. It activates when you become something. This is the shift most people never make. They try to change reality with desire, with effort, with visualization, with affirmations. But the bridge doesn't respond to any of that. It doesn't respond to wishing. It doesn't respond to hoping. It doesn't even respond to positive thinking. It responds to identity frequency. Let me explain. Every thought you have sends a signal. Every emotion you feel strengthens it. But your identity, the story you hold about who you are, that is the broadcast the universe listens to. Because identity is stable, identity is repetitive, identity is coherent. When your identity changes, your frequency changes. And when your frequency changes, reality has no choice but to follow. Here's the truth most people avoid. The resonance bridge activates the moment your inner state becomes consistent enough that the physical world must respond. Not because you forced it, not because you convinced it, but because your vibration became impossible to ignore. Think of it like a tuning fork. If you tap one tuning fork and hold another next to it, the second one begins to vibrate. Not by pressure, but by resonance. Reality works the same way. When your vibration is consistent, reality begins to hum in your direction. It starts syncing, aligning, reorganizing. And this is where everything gets wild. You stop chasing opportunities, and opportunities start finding you. You stop trying to manifest outcomes, and outcomes begin forming on their own. People show up at the exact right time. Paths open without you touching them. Situations rearrange themselves to match the frequency you hold. And none of it feels forced. It feels, inevitable. Because matter, in its most fundamental form, is responsive. It listens. It adjusts. It rearranges according to the vibration that stays the longest. This is why temporary bursts of positivity don't work. Why motivation fades, why nothing changes until you do. Your reality isn't responding to what you want. It's responding to who you are being. Consistently. Here's the core insight. The resonance bridge is not a path you walk, it's a transmission. A vibration that travels from your inner world into the structure of the physical world, quietly bending probabilities, influencing outcomes, and sculpting the form reality takes around you. You don't cross the bridge, your frequency does. And when that frequency stabilizes, when you lock into a version of yourself that is coherent, steady, and emotionally aligned, the bridge becomes active, and suddenly, the world starts behaving differently. Things line up, things sync, things click, not because life became easier, but because you finally became someone reality can respond to without resistance. This is the moment your consciousness starts shaping your world, not through force, but through resonance. And if you can learn to activate this bridge intentionally, your entire life can change in ways that feel nothing short of miraculous. Understanding the resonance bridge is one thing, activating it is another. Because this bridge isn't intellectual, it's experiential. It shifts not through knowledge, but through the state you maintain. So let's bring this down to earth. Let's make it practical. Something you can feel in your body, something your nervous system can recognize, something your consciousness can actually use. Here are 5 practices, simple, quiet, powerful, that gradually tune you into coherence and open the resonance bridge on purpose. 1. Inner coherence breathing. This is where everything starts. When your breath is chaotic, your vibration is chaotic. When your breath steadies, your field steadies. So breathe like this. 4 seconds in, hold for 2, 6 seconds out. Slow, quiet, unforced. As you exhale, let your shoulders drop, let your jaw soften, let your chest loosen. You're not trying to feel good. You're simply letting the noise settle so your true frequency can rise to the surface. Inner coherence begins with physiological stillness. 2. Frequency anchoring. Choose one state. Not a wish, not a hope, a state, confidence, peace, self-worth, clarity, abundance. Whatever feels natural to you. Now imagine that state as a tone, a vibration inside your chest, not emotional intensity, just a gentle frequency humming. Your job isn't to hold it perfectly. Your job is to return to it repeatedly. The more often you return, the more coherent you become. And coherence is the bridge's native language. 3. Conscious field expansion. Once your inner state stabilizes, you expand it outward. Close your eyes, place your attention a foot beyond your body, in front of you, behind you, to the sides, above, below. Not imagining a bubble, not visualizing light, just feeling the space around you as if your awareness is stepping a little further out. When your awareness expands, your field expands. And when your field expands, your influence increases. This is how your vibration begins interacting with the space around you. This is how the bridge grows. 4. Resonant action. Here's the secret no one teaches. Don't act from fear. Don't act from urgency. Don't act from, I need this to work. Wait for the moment when your inner tone clicks, when the action feels aligned, smooth, almost frictionless. Resonant action isn't about doing more. It's about acting when your inner state and the external moment are vibrating in harmony. That's when decisions feel effortless. That's when timing becomes perfect. That's when results appear faster than logic can explain. 5. Material echo observation. Once the bridge begins activating, the physical world sends small signals back, like ripples returning to the shore. A conversation that feels too precise to be random. A message at the exact right moment. A door opening without you pushing it. A subtle yes from the universe. Don't ignore these echoes, their confirmation, their feedback. They're signs that matter is beginning to shift around your frequency. Most people dismiss them, you won't. Because the more you notice the echoes, the stronger the resonance becomes. These 5 practices don't force reality. They align you with it. And the more you practice them, the more the bridge stops being a theory and becomes something you can feel. A real energetic interface between your inner world and the world that's forming around you. And once your bridge is active, there are signs, clear signs that tell you reality has begun responding. That's what we'll explore next. When the resonance bridge activates, the world doesn't change all at once, it changes in whispers first. Most people expect fireworks, they expect miracles, dramatic shifts, instant transformation. But that's not how coherence works, that's not how reality speaks. Reality begins with subtlety, quiet rearrangements. Small alignments so precise they almost feel like secrets meant only for you. Here are the signs, the unmistakable signals that your frequency has crossed the bridge and the physical world is finally responding. 1. Reality starts saying yes more easily. The first sign is friction dropping. Conversations flow smoother. Requests get accepted without effort. Obstacles soften. The things that used to resist you simply don't. It's as if the world is no longer pushing back. It's leaning toward you. This isn't luck. This is resonance. 2. Synchronicities multiply not once, not twice, but in clusters. You think of someone and they text you. You speak about an idea and a door opens that same day. You feel a nudge. And reality answers instantly. Synchronicities are echoes. Proof that your vibration is influencing the field before the physical event appears. When synchronicities accelerate, your bridge is active. 3. Physical resistance weakens. Things that felt heavy suddenly feel doable. Tasks that drained you become strangely effortless. You stop feeling like you're climbing uphill. This is because force is no longer required. Frequency is doing the work for you. The material world is aligning instead of opposing. 4. Time becomes flexible. This is a strange one, and once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Some moments stretch, others collapse. Days feel faster or slower or perfectly timed in ways you can't rationalize. You're not manipulating time. Your coherence is shifting your perception to match the flow of events aligned with you. This is timeline adjustment, the early stage of reality crystallizing. 5. Intuition becomes laser sharp. Your inner signals get louder, cleaner, more trustworthy. You just know when something is right. You sense what to avoid. You feel the timing without needing signs. This isn't being psychic, it's being coherent. When your field stabilizes, your intuition stops competing with noise and becomes a direct interface with the probability field itself. When these signs start appearing, it means something profound. Your inner state is no longer just personal. It's influential. It's interacting with matter. It's shaping the world around you, and once you reach this stage, you're not just observing reality anymore. You're participating in its formation. But there's one last shift. The shift that turns resonance into transformation. And that's where we go next. You don't influence matter through force. You influence it through the vibration you consistently hold. If there is one sentence you remember from everything we've explored so far, let it be that one. Because by now you've seen the pattern. Force exhausts you, pressure drains you, control collapses on itself. But resonance, steady, coherent, quiet resonance, moves reality in ways your effort never could. And here's the part most people overlook. The resonance bridge isn't dramatic, it isn't loud, it doesn't arrive with trumpets or lightning. It arrives in silence, in alignment, in steadiness. It appears the moment your inner world stops contradicting itself. The moment your identity, your emotions, your expectations, and your actions finally play the same note, that's when the bridge opens, not because you forced it open, but because you became someone it could respond to. And that's the truth no one teaches. Matter doesn't care what you want. It responds to what you are. It listens to the frequency you broadcast, the tone behind your decisions, the emotional climate inside your chest, the identity you wear even when no one is watching. When that tone becomes stable, not perfect, just stable, the world starts adjusting itself. People shift, events align, paths open, reality softens. You're no longer pushing your way through life. Life is meeting you halfway. And for the first time, you feel a strange calm rising in your body. Not excitement, not adrenaline, but something deeper. A quiet sense of inevitability. The feeling of being in tune with the very structure of your world. Because the resonance bridge is not a tool. It's not a trick. It's not a technique. It's a relationship. A relationship between your consciousness and the living field of matter that surrounds you. And once that relationship becomes coherent, you stop trying to be the architect of your life, and you start becoming the signal it responds to. So take a breath. Feel the stillness inside you. Feel how close you already are. The bridge isn't in front of you. It's inside you. And you've been activating it far more often than you think. Now all that's left is to understand where this leads. If resonance can influence matter, then identity is what shapes entire realities. Up until this point, you've learned how your inner frequency touches the physical world, how coherence opens the resonance bridge, how matter quietly responds to the vibration you hold. But there's a deeper layer, a more powerful layer, a layer that doesn't just influence outcomes, but rewrites the blueprint of the reality you live in. And that layer is identity, because your identity isn't just who you think you are. It's the frequency pattern your consciousness broadcasts 24/7. The signal every possibility, every opportunity, every timeline uses to decide whether it belongs in your life or in someone else's. So here's the real question. What happens when you shift that identity? Not on the surface, but at the vibrational core. What happens when you become a version of yourself so coherent, so aligned, so internally stabilized that reality has no choice but to mirror you? Not eventually, not someday, but instantly, because your frequency no longer matches your old timeline. This is where we're going next. The identity shift, becoming the version of you reality must mirror. And the only question left is, are you ready to meet the version of yourself your reality has been waiting for?